Okay, we're going to start today by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll all rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those who do not know me, my name is Willie Reifsteck, and I am the Middlesex Town Historian. I was appointed to this position just over a year ago, and what a remarkable year it has been. Getting to know the wonderful people in the Heritage Group and so many others who keep our town's heart beating strong has been incredibly delightful. I want to take a moment to say thank you so much to the Middlesex Host Company for allowing us to host this event every year. We also appreciate the air conditioning. It's very nice in the beginning of August. And of course, a huge thank you to the Middlesex Heritage Group and all the other people that make this annual tradition possible. I'd be remiss not to give a quick little plug. We'd love to welcome anyone interested in helping preserve our past. Why is this work important? Because it connects us to our roots, helps us appreciate how far we've come, and inspires future generations to dream bigger by understanding their past. We have some exciting projects underway and more on the horizon. At the end of the ceremony, you'll see a slide listing some of these efforts. Please take a moment to look it over, and if something speaks to you, we'd be so glad to have your help. Now that I've gotten the historian pitch out of the way, let's get to why we're all here. To recognize a few truly dedicated individuals and to celebrate the spirit that makes our small town so incredibly special. In a place like ours, community isn't just a word, it's a way of life. It's in the pride we take in our shared spaces and the folks who roll up their sleeves to keep this town running smoothly, day after day, often without fanfare. This is especially reflected when it comes to our town government. Our town board works together to make thoughtful decisions that shape our future. The town clerk keeps us organized and informed. The highway superintendent, they're out there making sure we can all get to work, school, or the nearest diner, no matter the time of day. The code enforcement officer makes sure our buildings are safe and sound, even when we try a few creative home projects. Our town supervisor leads with a steady hand, keeping one eye on tradition and one on what's next. And as for the town historian, we're the ones preserving the stories and spirit that make Middlesex truly special, while asking if we can please keep that old sign you were about to toss. These roles and the individuals behind them are what make Middlesex more than just a dot on the map. They make it a home and a community. Their efforts remind us that it's not the size of a town that matters, but the size of its heart. And here in Middlesex, our heart is big. Fittingly, all three citizens being honored today played meaningful roles in our town government. Willie Reifsteck, who held the position of highway superintendent for 2.5 decades. Dan Liddiard, who was in the position of town supervisor. And Dan Robeson, my predecessor, our former town historian. To each of them, thank you. Your work has strengthened our roots and inspired our future. So let's begin by celebrating someone very dear to this town, Willie Reifsteck. And who better to speak on his behalf than two people who know him best. His children, Tate and Tessa, will be sharing a few words in his honor.
Just remember, I can have my will redone.
Pressure's on.
Well, I was just going to say first, for anybody that's a hardcore Instagrammer, my dad just joined Instagram a year ago. You need to look up anybody new on Instagram. There's a fresh face for you. Welcome to the 21st century. I'm Tate Reifsteck. I'm Willie's son. This is my sister Tessa. Thank you to the Heritage Group for putting this on, and congratulations to everybody else. Mr. Liddiard, Mr. Robeson. I knew them both pretty well too. Mr. Robeson was a football coach too, mine when I was young. My sister's going to do a little more speech about it all.
Can I take this? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me know if people can't hear me. I'm a little bit more written out than my brother. He likes to wing it. I do not. Our dad was born on July 6, 1956, with the birth name of Thomas, although I think most of us know him better as Willie. He was the middle child of 6 kids. From all accounts, their house was a really busy one. Between sports, school, and the chaos of being in a large household of 8, our dad learned quickly how to go with the flow, and as my Aunt Rini put it, work hard. She said my dad either put in 110% or nothing. He graduated from Marcus Whitman in 1974 and started working for the town shortly after. At the time, my late grandfather was Superintendent Frank Arnold Jr. My dad later became his son-in-law, and I often laugh because my grandpa also worked under his father-in-law, my late great-grandfather, Liam Button. So if tradition had followed, my husband should have worked under my dad, but he broke the mold. He works for the New York State Thruway. From a young age, Dad showed Tate and I what work ethic is all about. He was punctual, dependable, and dedicated. He truly tried to make the town people happy because those were who elected him. I rarely saw my dad get very rattled, but I remember riding with him on a road trip down at the lake, and someone called him very unhappy, and I could hear them raising their voice to him. As always, he was calm, cool, and collected. I also remember many Christmas mornings that presents weren't opened until much later in the day because the roads came first. My Uncle Buck remembers a time when he rode his snowmobile to work from Stanley to Middlesex and back, not getting home until 3 or 4 a.m. I have heard many times how during one rough storm when I was a baby, Dad would have to tell me, what, 1990, 1991?
93.
Oh, 93, okay, so I was a toddler. He walked and possibly even crawled on his hands, I just heard, and knees at one point, according to my Uncle Steve, who said he told him if he ever did it again, he would whoop on him. All to get to work from our house in Bright Valley to make sure the roads got cleared. Through his 42 years of service, including 24 as superintendent, he experienced and improved so much, including a new town barn after the old one had burned. My stepmom remembers the night that it happened, people calling the house looking for him, and he was already on the way. When she called to talk to him, he got choked up because the thought of losing the town barn was devastating to him. But as she said, the new barn was a blessing because Dad was able to make needed updates to better serve the community, and it's the current town barn that they still use. On top of being a loyal highway worker for over 40 years, he was the main caretaker of a local cemetery, Overackers. He took great pride in this and made sure it always looked its best, honoring so many in the area. He also went on to become president of the New York State Town Superintendent of Highway Associations, and he enjoyed his time serving with them. The stories we have heard of our dad and his work ethic could go on for days, but they all come back to a few main characteristics: hardworking, loyal, and dedicated. And I have to add one more: humble. If he wasn't honored today, you would rarely hear him talk about himself, his many years of service, and his dedication to the town of Middlesex. We are happy he is being honored today, and there aren't many more deserving than him. Okay.
We have a portable microphone to go around, and anybody wants any stories about Willie? I'm new to the area, so I didn't know everybody's nicknames. So it was very confusing to me when I thought his name was Tom. That's right.
I'm Tom's mom, and I'm probably one of the few people that calls themselves in Tom. But his grandfather Reifsteck, who was William, was probably very pleased that he's Willie. Back in 1978, we came out of church Christmas Eve, snowing like you know what. And I don't think Tom even bothered to change his clothes. Took off because he knew Frank needed him. The next morning, we celebrated our Christmas without him. Stephen and David and Brian leave, and then got, Mike and Beth had just got married and came to come down and spend Christmas with us. About 2 days later, Tom came home. He walked in, he opened his presents, and he said, "Is that it?" I said, "Yep. See ya." He went back to bed, and I didn't see him again until the next day. Dedication is his middle name. Thank you, Tom.
Anybody else would like a chance to take some shots at Willie?
Oh, way in the back there.
Hi, I also lived on the lake, but I have a different story about Willie. I appreciated his help very much whenever there was what we call a gully buster. He was down on the road, and some of my neighbors might have been more rattled or being a little abusive, but I really appreciated what he did and knew that a lot of it, just about everything was out of his control, but he was quickly on the scene and starting to help out and fix things up. So thank you, Willie.
Willie, you and Gary spent a lot of time working together over the years. When Gary was fire chief, Willie was road superintendent, and I know how much he depended on you, and you did a wonderful job.
Willie, David, and Adam over here. Willie and I, our careers kind of parallel each other. I was at the school as a transportation supervisor, and Willie as a highway guy. I can't remember a time that I called him at 4 o'clock or 4:30 a.m. wondering about the road that he didn't answer the phone. Oftentimes we got a half a dozen phone calls and we try to make that little-known secret that the decision of closing schools rested on Willie's and my shoulders. And I don't believe that there was 1 or 2 times that we made the wrong decision. I'm sure your kids were thrilled about we're going to have school with my kids. Thanks, Willie, for all the calls.
Willie, Dan, I just want to say Willie was respectful and thankful for working on several projects with you on the town, and when an idea come up, he was the first to get the shovel or get the equipment and get it done. And he always had the town's best interest in mind first, and I really appreciate our friendship. Good job for a long time.
Anyone else?
Hi, Willie. I'm Alan Williams, the town water superintendent. I appreciated all the hard work Willie did in helping me fix water main breaks in the middle of the night, and it was never at a good time usually. Even one was in January or February on a Super Bowl weekend, I think. So I thank you for all your help.
Number one, we got to fix the water main break, and nobody else started on the story.
Yeah.
I'm a newcomer here. I moved here about 15 years ago, and I moved from the south. And my sister lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Says, "What the hell are you doing up there?" I said, "What are you doing with all the snow?" I said, "This is unbelievable." First 10 years you're here, if there was a spot of snow, I could hear the trucks out there already getting prepared. And the roads were never unpassable the entire time that Willie was the highway department guy. One time I come back, my wife and I come back from a trip, and landed at the airport and driving down, and the roads were not clear. I didn't find until the next day that's the night the barns burned down. I knew something was terribly wrong because that never happened the entire time that we lived here. So they did a great job, and people in Charlotte, North Carolina know about you. So. Willie had to come up here and get a picture taken and get a plaque.
Do I get a couple minutes for rebuttal?
Yes.
We want to.
Smile, Willie.
We have one more.
I do have one story. This one got legs. This one is really good. We have played a few rounds of golf. And our favorite course is Silver Creek down in Waterloo. Well, Willie, we were up there, I think there was 2 groups of us both. I was with him, I think, were you with him, Buzz? I was with him. So anyway, a couple of our other brothers were with him, and we were on the 15th tee, and Willie teed one up and let her fly, and the 13th green happened to be a little bit down the lowest to the right, and we were looking for Willie's ball, we couldn't find it. This guy was on the 13th green, he pulls his ball out of the cup, and he goes, "Did you hit a Srixon ball?" Willie said, "Yeah." Willie made a hole-in-one on the ball in the hole. And not only did he make a hole-in-one on the round hole, he got a plaque from the golf course, and I made sure it got put in the newspaper. So that's his only hole-in-one.
Yeah, we didn't do it the wrong ways. Anyway, normally, a little bit of public speaking I've done, I kind of know my audience, so I didn't have me to get to there, was going to be like, so I kind of figured I shouldn't do anything political or dirty, so thanks, bye. No, I'm just kidding. Just want to thank everybody for the honor, being the Black Appreciation, being recognized. Yeah, 42 years, like the Grateful Dead song is long, strange trip it was. I guess I was thinking, well, 3 of the biggest things that happened during this band was definitely the ice storm in '91. I was in Boston at that time. And then the blizzard in '93, as my daughter pointed out, was, I hope nobody ever sees a storm like that one again. It was just wicked. And then, of course, the fires, January 28th of 13. Hard to believe it's been 12 years already. So, but yeah, we came out of it in better shape. And, I know the facility down there is, the guys are able to do a lot more things down there than we could. We were pretty cramped down there before, and glad that they came out of it with something anyway. Just thank a few people. I got a lot of family here today, big family. My mother, 90 years old, spoke with that. My sister Maureen, her husband Brian, my brother Phil, his wife Suzanne, my brother Steve, his wife Lori. That's all my brothers and sisters. Mom and Dad tried to raise me right, but somehow I just didn't come out together. What? Oh, thanks, baby. I didn't say it. Okay. That's how it is? Okay, my oldest brother Mike. My kids, Tate, Tess, Tony is Tess's husband, Aaron is Tate's wife, and I got 7 grandkids here today.
And your wife.
I was getting there. Well, thank you. I try not to forget. Yeah, of course, my wife is always by my side, backing me up. So I guess that's it. Thank you. The next person on honor is Don Liddiard, and Amory will do the presentation. That's right.
Thank you for being here today as we gather to honor the life and legacy of a truly remarkable man, Don Liddiard. I do want to begin by offering a sincere apology. Some of the details in today's program are incorrect due to a misunderstanding on my part while reviewing the questionnaire responses, but the following information is correct. Don was born on August 8, 1940, to Clifford and Elsie Liddiard, and from the very beginning lived his life rooted deeply in community, resilience, and hard work. He grew up here in our region, attending schools in Hopewell, Cheshire, Canandaigua, and eventually graduating from Middlesex Valley. Later, he continued his education through courses at Finger Lakes Community College, always eager to keep learning and growing. On March 25, 1961, Don married the love of his life, Marlene, and together they built a beautiful life filled with love, laughter, and purpose. They raised 3 children, Roxanne, Mark, and Ross, and were later blessed with 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. Family was Don's foundation. Everything he did with their well-being in mind. He was a protector, a provider, a guiding hand, and a steady heart. Don wore many hats throughout his life: farmer, tradesman, business owner, public servant, and conservationist. But at the heart of it all was a man who simply loved his family and community. In the 1970s, Don founded Liddiard's Tree Service, which blossomed into a successful family-run business that now spans 3 generations. Through years of hard work and strong leadership, that business earned the Best of the Finger Lakes Award and became a trusted and familiar name within the community. But Don's contributions didn't stop with business. From 1984 to 1985, he served as town supervisor of Middlesex, and during that time, he left a legacy that continues to touch our lives today. He played an instrumental role in the development of the Vine Valley Town Beach and in preserving the historic Robeson store, 2 projects that speak volumes about his vision, his values, and his love for our town. He believed in preserving our past while building a better future, and he carried that belief into every decision he made. Beyond the official titles and accomplishments, Don was a man of the outdoors, a passionate conservationist and a proud member of many local and regional clubs, including the Middlesex Conservation Club, the Adirondack Mountain Club, and the Blue Mountain Lake Club, where he and Marlene own a cabin, and several hunting clubs. He served as an Adirondack hunting guide in the 1970s and was also a former volunteer firefighter in Rushville, always looking for ways to give back, to serve, and to protect what mattered most. He was known by many as a master of the woods, a man who found deep joy in the stillness of the forest and the thrill of a good hunt. He especially loved his vintage trucks, a 1968 Ford and a 1986 Chevrolet, both symbols of a simpler time and the craftsmanship he so appreciated. But above all else, Don Liddiard was a family man. He lived his life with purpose, always putting others first. He guided with a quiet strength, protected fiercely, and loved deeply. His legacy is not only found in the projects he completed or the titles he held, but in the hearts of the people who knew him, worked with him, and called him a friend. Today, we don't just remember what Don did, we remember who he was: kind, capable, humble, loyal, and unwavering in his commitment to his family, his town, and the land he loved so much. We honor Don for his service, his legacy, and the enduring contributions he made to our community. He is deeply missed, but we carry him with us in our stories, our shared history, and in the spirit of this town he helped shape. Thank you, Don, for your exceptional dedication to our community.
Pass the microphone around if anybody wants to speak. And then we have some Liddiard family members here today.
I was a upperclassman in the Valley. I was under, obviously younger, and we were all good friends, knew each other, but he was pretty busy and had several jobs. Avid hunter. Bill Martin was in my class, we were friends, and my Don, I believe, worked either part-time or more than that for Martin's Tire. So Bill Martin and I are out one night, a little later than we should be, and we ended up in the snow ditch. And we both looked at each other and said, we're not calling Ralph, and we're not calling my dad, so we got to get out of this another way. We need some help. And so Bill says, well, this is like 1 or 2 in the morning. He says, I got one idea. And I said, what's that? He says, we can call Don and see what he thinks. I said, it's 2 in the morning. Bill said, what are we doing? We're going to freeze, we're going to walk. And he said, no, I'll call him. So he called Don. And Don said, who was it? Me and Bill. He got in his truck, come and pulled us out, got us on the road so we could get home. He went back and got a little sleep, and our parents were never the wiser. I thank Don for rescuing us younger fellas in a pickle. Then we said, how could we pay him back? And Bill and I talked about it, and they would have the wood cutting ceremony before the hunting programs in the Adirondacks. And so we'll go up and help cut firewood. So Bill and I went up and met Don and another friend, and we did a bunch of wood cutting for a couple of days. And of course, there was a little fun going down and getting something to eat, or so. And my friend and I got back to the cabin a little early, and Bill and Don was just a little later. So you can't let an opportunity like this go undone. So we unscrewed the light bulbs, threw a rope over the petition to the bed that they were going to be sleeping in. Once they got in it, we started hauling the bed up, a little at a time. When I got done, they were almost standing up, wondering what was going on. Was the house moving or blowing over? And then we finally let them down. And just a good friend, an older person that we looked up to in the sense of our age, and yet he was willing to get out of a midnight bed and come rescue a couple of young dogs. Thanks, Don and the family.
Anybody else? I'd like to mention, one of the things I've learned through life, and I like to tell everybody, maybe you want to decide, being president of Middlesex Citizen Appreciation, I'm also 81. Not even connected, so what I've learned is at a certain age you want to plant shade trees on which you know you will never sit. And the 3 men we're honoring today have left a living legacy of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren who are going to contribute not only to our community but to the nation. And I think that's the highest testimony a man can have, or anybody can have. They've raised children who are going to be citizens who contribute and make a difference in other people's lives. All 3 men have done that. Of course, I'm a big fan of Boston. That's one reason I say this. But anyway, anybody else want to make some comments about it? No? If not, I'd have the Liddiard family come up.
We tried.
Now going to honor Dan Robeson, and we have the town supervisor, Dave Adams, going to be the presenting for the family.
I got lots of pages, but it's big font, so, I'm a little like, Kate and Tessa. I normally stand up in front of folks and just speak from my heart, and, words flow, but, talking about Uncle Dan, my wife said to me, do you think you can get through it? And I said, I think I will, because, this is the facts. I got the facts on paper, so I'm trying to take my heart out of it. I told some folks, seems like just a month ago, so down at the community house, that Dan Robeson, town historian, is always Uncle Dan to me, even though he's not my uncle. Second cousin, third cousin, whatever it is. Doesn't really matter to me because he's always been Uncle Dan. Always will be. Dan was 87 years old when he passed away last June 30th in 2024. His 6 children, 11 grandchildren, along with countless others, miss him every day. And I know for myself, I do every day. I think about Dan. Dan was born in New York, raised in Bergen County, New Jersey, served in the Army from 1959 to 1962, and he married the love of his life, Ruth Ann Boyle, and Ruthie to me. His family came to Vine Valley in the Civil War, right around the Civil War, when his great-grandfather, Colonel, that they're written down here somewhere, Foster Hickson, bought the farm. So if you don't know, the Robeson-Hickson farm in Vine Valley, Big Red Barn. Dan retired in 1996, and there's only one place he wanted to retire, and that was the Vine Valley. Him and Ruthie built the house, and I can tell you, driving down to Canandaigua, coming home from Canandaigua, my wife and I always came that way. There was hardly a weekend that the parking lot wasn't full. Some version, most of them I think, came every weekend to Dan and Ruth Ann's house. And they still do. You come down through there now and there's cars in the driveway, which is awesome. Dan's love of Vine Valley really came as he was a young man, a young boy. He came from New Jersey in the 1950s, which was now we don't think about it. Easy pass, 5-6 hours, you can be in New York City, quicker if you flew, but he's coming up on the weekends or during the summertime to spend with his grandparents up here. He worked on the farm. At that point in time, it was a farm. There was a couple cows, there was chickens, there was some sheep, probably a goat running around, horses, because that's what they were farming with. He told me in many of our conversations, he and I, on Wednesday morning, Dan really didn't mention it, Wednesday morning, the Heritage Group, everybody come on down. When I started as a supervisor, Dan and I would get to the office about 8 o'clock. He's sitting at the table with the Daily Messenger, Democrat and Chronicle. I would come, sit down with him, we'd look at the paper, we talk about the Yankees, we talk about the Bills, we talk about town politics, and maybe we get a little bit higher into the politics of the time. But I look forward to those things, and he was always good for giving me some advice on what I was doing, what was going on in the town, aside from the historian piece of it. And I always look forward to those times with him. We talked about, but in those conversations, it always came, eventually it came to family, which is what Dan loved to talk about, was his family. I love to talk about my family. So we'd have those conversations. I knew things that were going on with the Robeson family. Some of them, I don't even know who they are. I don't know their names, because we've sort of gotten distance apart. But I knew what was going on because of Uncle Dan. And he knew what was going on with my kids. My memory as a kid in Vine Valley, and if you know that big red barn down there in Vine Valley, at that point in time, back in the 70s, there was 19 acres of grapes. And behind that, between the grapes and the lake, are a whole bunch of cottages. And my memory is that Uncle Dan and Ruthie and Aunt Ruthie came, and they spent 2 weeks in the summertime with their kids. First 1 week would be the Robeson family, and then the second week would be the Robeson Canovas, which was Uncle Dan's sister, Mary Ellen, and their kids. And then the third week would be whichever one was first, whoever got the short straw. But that time frame, when both the Robeson and the Canova, the Adam, and a couple, 3 other cottages, I counted up this morning, 15 to 20 kids we're all together, all playing, having a great time for 3 weeks. And we played baseball, we played kickball, kick the can. Every once in a while it would rain, and we'd all try to come into my parents' cottage, wet and muddy, to play Monopoly. It did not thrill my mom. Dan retired, and his life of retirement ended when he decided to be an assistant coach for Marcus Whitman football, and he held many positions. And he and I stood on the sidelines as I was working, helping the football team out. And my gosh, that guy he'd see plays, and he'd look through the line to see plays, and he'd go, look at that play, look at that play. And we did that for about a dozen years together. And he's worked with the historical group. Uncle Dan learned that in 2014, he learned that the Greater Hudson Heritage Network had a conservation assessment program that evaluated local history groups and made recommendations to improve the history recording process. This led to many improvements in policies and procedures for our current group, which I'm sure they're still working off of now. He also applied for grants to refurbish, this is one of his pride things, refurbish and restore 5 historic paintings of the 5 one-room schoolhouses that form the Middlesex Valley School. We've got 3 of them up here in the town hall. There's one in Rushville, one in Potter. So if you get a chance, Wednesday mornings around 9 o'clock, come on in. You can see those pictures. It took 9 years from start to finish, and a lot of work by a lot of people to find some of them, because they were stored in some creative places. The other thing he was proud of was he found out that the Pomeroy group offered plaques for historical sites, and he reached out to them, finally got the plaques, the Middlesex Methodist Church, the Middlesex train station, Robeson Store in Vine Valley, the Vine Valley Methodist Church, and Over Rector's Corner Schoolhouse. All have historic plaques based on that. The other achievement he did was he's got the historical group is putting all the family histories into the family tree marker software so that it's computerized. And one of his proudest things was being the chairman of this day for many, many years. I would like to take just a second to finish up with Dan's letter to me when he was done being town historian. I don't want to use that R word. But this speaks really of Dan Robeson. The best is yet to come. As many of you know, I'm stepping down as historian for the town of Middlesex. It has been 14 years since Bob Moulter and the town board appointed me for the recommendation of Bruce Clark. My family has been a long history in our town, and I have been proud to serve, and especially proud to follow Bruce. The town hall provides the home and equipment for the Middlesex Heritage Group. Our historians, both Bob and Ruth, emphasized the first priority was to provide a warm and friendly location, including coffee and cookies. They do. The Wednesday morning activities include recording current events and obituaries, keeping cemetery records, and planning 2 major annual programs today and the Seneca Heritage Day. There has been much success over the course of these 14 years under the leadership of Paul Mitchell, Dave Charlotte, and Win Hart. The Middlesex Heritage Group has achieved many accomplishments. The Middlesex Fire Department has given us great support on major programs with the help of Bob Minster. The historian and town board provided the leadership for the Citizens Appreciation Program. Thus far, we have honored 61 citizens, 44 during Uncle Dan's time. A great, unique program. Our newsletter editors deserve special recognition for their hard work and professionalism. Nancy Elwell and Deb Bronson. Also, Elaine and Jim Hilton for their dedication as heritage officers. The town board and supervisors continue to encourage and support our efforts, particularly with financial aid to major projects. I have never been denied a request from Bob Moulter, Wayne Dunn, or David Adams. I believe it is essential that teamwork between the towns, the historian, Middlesex Heritage Group, and the fire department is the key to continued success. We need to applaud our leaders and volunteers. And They are Bruce Clark, Phyllis Button, Janet Reed, Jan Stovall, Jeanette Back, Dave Charlin, Beth Armitage Muller, Lane Hilton, Jim Hilton, Laura Dorman, Sonia Hay, Jack Foss, Bonnie Oswald, the Mitchell family, Lee Williams, Wynn Harper, Nancy Elwell, Deb Bronson, and all the members. This has been the best job yet, and at my age, God willing, the best is yet. Dan was asked upon retiring what it was like to be retired from this town historian job. People talk about being joyful and free. I'm not sure I'm quite there, but I no longer worry. And although I no longer have significant responsibilities, I look forward to a better life. In the meantime, I have everything I want and need, and I thank God. I asked Wynn Harper, I asked Wynn, how do you sum up Dan's leadership? And he said he was a quiet leader that provided ideas and let us do our work. That, I believe, is what sums up Dan Robeson. Thank you. My honor to be able to present to him.
I worked for Dan for about 10, 12 years. He was like a mentor to me. And, we always joke about the fact that we have many things in common for our life. And we met earlier in life that I could have retired as a Marine General or been a court martial. I'm not sure which one would happen, but we had a lot of things in common and we had a great life. He gave me this hat and I became the president of Middlesex Heritage. It's been about 12 years now. I've kind of worn all that. But I wear it almost every day. Every day I put it on, I think of Dan. He was very instrumental in my life. He was very supportive of everything I did. And he had a quiet leadership about him. He also gave me a little fired up sometimes. I saw him get mad maybe once or twice, and you could actually see the red. Your body, it's like he's mad. He's missed every day. I mean, I used to talk about Thanksgiving. I said, how many people at your house? I have no idea. I go out, I go to Wakelands, I buy food, and I go to my room. And, I think one Thanksgiving, you had like 29 people there. And most of the time, he didn't have any idea. So who's living out in the bunkhouse? I don't know. He's a great family man. Again, all three men are honored today. They're a great family man, and that's the living legacy that we all would like to have. So, anyway, anybody else have any comments? Nope.
I need to talk. So I don't know if I need that. Put on my teacher voice. So I am Beth Armitage Muller, and Dan used to call me his kissing cousin because we are related. Caroline Robeson married my uncle, Hillman Underwood, or Boney. It was Uncle Boney, and I know all of the Robesons that used to visit the Vine Valley store always came in and introduced themselves. So my husband and I are the ones who reopened the Robeson store in 2018. And I'm glad to say that it's still alive and running, even though not quite the same as when we were there, because the whole purpose was more nostalgic, I guess, than anything else, because we needed the cheese and we needed the certain things, that we needed the penny candy. And if Jack's over there, if young Jack Robeson is over there, you owe me money. He used to come into the candy counter and he would get his little change and he'd spread it all out on the table. And then he would pick up a piece of candy that matched the coins that he had. Okay, here's 45 cents, and he puts that here, and then he piles all this up. And then he brings it, gathers it up, puts it on the counter, and I add it up for him, and I said, do you have any tax money? And he looks at me like, what? And I said, okay, I got it. But he never learned. Every time he came in, oops, forgot the tax money.
And he did learn.
So anyway,
I don't know how we ended up running the Vine Valley store, but we did. And sort of the ball started rolling, and if it weren't for Lee Williams and Dan, I don't know, and Alan, with the water, I don't know if it ever would have opened. But one story about Dan and Lee Williams before we opened. If you've ever seen the upstairs of the Vine Valley store, it's an absolutely gorgeous place. It's all tongue and groove, all across the ceiling, all the way down the sides. It's just a beautiful place, and I love it. But the stairs are very treacherous. So they're very narrow, they're very steep, so they're about this wide. So Dan and Lee decide that we need to put a light bulb in the hallway going up the stairs. So they get out a box that's about the right height, or a chunk of wood, and put it on the lower stairs so they can have a bigger surface to put lean the ladder up against the side of the building on the inside. So they have this ladder leaned against the wall, and Dan's holding the ladder, not to worry. Lee's climbing up the stair, up the ladder with the light bulb to change the light bulb on the very tippy top on this hallway that's straight up. And I'm not watching because I just can't. So I was out and doing my thing, and all of a sudden there's this huge crash. And I went around to see who had fallen off the ladder or what happened. They said, we just dropped the light bulb. You know, I get those two were always together, and you never knew what they were going to get into because they got into quite a lot. And I guess my biggest sorrow, I guess, about not being at the Vine Valley store anymore is that it's just known as the Vine Valley store these days. All the T-shirts, all that stuff just say Vine Valley store. They don't say the Robeson Vine Valley store, which we always did. And that just is a sad thing to me. So I miss the store dreadfully, but I'm too old to do that work anymore, unfortunately. So.
Dan was an old football coach of mine when I was in sophomore, I think junior and senior year. He rode with me when I blew my knee out playing football. Sophomore year, he rode with me to the hospital in the ambulance. He also had the best basketball court. Dave's boys and me, we all used to, Nick and Jason were a little older, so they always drove us down to play basketball down there. He was always the kindest guy. He let anybody come down there and play basketball. And bump into him even now older. You'd see him around town a little bit once in a while. Super nice guy to talk to. And one of the kindest guys you could ever meet. So that's all I got.
Dan is a great person and an even better friend. Miss him a lot. And when it comes to his becoming a historian, he's told several people, I did not volunteer for Ruth Clark Williston to take that job. And so, if everybody here knows Ruth Clark, you need no explanation. But he put on his job, and I thought he did a wonderful job. I'm going to miss him a lot. Thank you.
I'm Judy, I'm one of his kids, and, you said he was a great person, better friend, but he's even a better dad. He always said, I'm blessed, but really, we were blessed. And we can tell every day after he passed away last year that, how blessed we really were. He had strong roots here. And every year we'd come back and it would be just the highlight of our year. Swimming, and I figured it was 4 generations at least that had come back in the summer and stayed at the same place all day. Dan probably would have done a better job, speaking about him, but he's not here, couldn't be here today. So, so many stories. Nobody really talked about my mom, because really in my mind, you can't have one without the other. My mom really brought out such a wonderful part in him. My mom was very vivacious and very funny and silly, and she just, the two of them had the funniest stories together. One night he wasn't a real tall man, as we all know, and he has some kind of VP or president coming into his plant. He was a very successful businessman, and he worked at the American Can Company. And I guess one of the higher-ups was going to be doing some sort of tour, and so he had bought a suit, but they needed to be hemmed, and my mom said, sure. She stayed up really late, hemming the pants, like really late at night, and so she was sleeping in, he was getting ready in the morning, and he posed her everything in the van, and she's like, oh, he's like, I just want to thank you so much for hemming my pants. Would you like to see them? And they were like knickers. But I mean, the two of them were just like that. They were so, I mean, you know, they had their rough stuff for sure, but they were just two peas in a pod. I mean, Mr. Terrible, he passed away, but I know when we, you all became such good friends to him. I just really appreciate that. And, you know, the historian role really fulfilled something, I think, for him. You know, it was a place for him to go, it was cookies, he'd come over to my house after, he'd say, no, I can't eat anything, I ate too many cookies this morning. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what he said. And so, I don't know if anybody else has something to say, but, you know, really, what it comes down to is we really want to set the best.
Okay, the Robeson family come up to the black presentation. Next picture. We all have to come up. Yes, brief closing remarks. This is one of my favorite events we do here in Middlesex. I've been associated with this Citizen Appreciation Day with Dan for a long time. And we think very hard about who's selected here. And I just love the people who are selected. They're so proud of their honor. It's important, I believe, that we honor those who contribute to our community. And these individuals reflect the values, priorities, and historical narratives that define us. They are role models and inspirations to everyone here today and for future generations. We have a plaque in the town hall lobby which has a little, everybody who's got the award ever since what year we started. But it's like the who's who of Middlesex, who's contributed to our town. Names of the honored citizens are engraved permanently on the plaque in our hearts, in our collective memory, and will never be forgotten. It's been an honor, and I certainly appreciate your attendance today. So we have to end with the advertising. Middlesex area group meets on Wednesday mornings. The average age of the group now is probably, I'd say, 75, except for the story was
Thanks to Amber.
Amber pulled it down, actually, to 75. So we're getting kind of old, but our job is to preserve the past and the future. And we meet every Wednesday morning, 9 to 12. We do a lot of cataloging. We answer questions from the public about historical events in town. And it's a social hour too. And at 10 o'clock, we used to be 10 o'clock, break for coffee and cookies, homemade cookies. So Dan, about a year or two ago, said, I'm not waiting till 10 o'clock, so as soon as the cookies arrive, I start eating cookies. Which I kind of like. So we have two events coming up. We have Seneca Heritage Day on the 30th of August. Over after Corner School, Peter Jemison, once again, something like 35 years, he's going to talk about, this year he's going to talk about the Iroquois creation story. We'll also have Bill Krause of the Allegheny Dancers, and so you have a chance to do some Native American dancing. That night we have a Ring of Fire up on Bear Hill. And on the 13th of December, we have the Wreaths Across America at the Raptors Cemetery, where we put a wreath on every veteran who's buried there. We have 141 buried there right now. We have 8 buried in Pine Corners. And as I was younger, I climbed up the cemetery in town to find out who's there. That's a heck of a hill to climb on. This event will be, we have a YouTube channel called the Middlesex Heritage Group, and this video of this event will be on there sometime next week. We have about 10 or 12 videos on there right now. Anyway, we also have Ruth Clark's book over there, which is the definitive book about Middlesex. We have membership forms, $10 a year, and this is a one-time offer. We just have one time. This event this year. One-time offer. The book sells for $45 if you're a non-member. If you're a member, you get it for $20. The membership is $10. Now, there's a back. You know, for $30, you get a book and a membership. You get a quarterly newsletter, which is great as well. Jeff does such a great job with quarterly newsletters. Unbelievable. She takes some of my writing and makes sense, actually. Anyway, I think anything else we have to do? Now, supervisor wants to speak.
Am I on?
Here we go.
On behalf of the town board, myself, I just want to say thank you to every member of the Heritage Group in Lee with their leadership, and echo what Wynn is saying. Wednesdays is a beehive at the town hall. I'm working again, so I'm not able to be there every Wednesday, but I miss it, and I look forward to the time when I can start being there consistently on Wednesday mornings. But everybody on the committee, everybody who shows up Wednesdays, works extremely hard, and I'm thankful for all of them. Thank you.
What I like about this event is the first half hour when people are sitting down and talking. I know we started a little late, and because the buzz, the community, the getting together and talking. I don't know how often this group gets together. Emily had a great event, 150th anniversary of the schoolhouse 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. That was another community event, and we want to have more community events where you get together and get to know each other again. This is a great community with wonderful people, and just hear the buzz and people talking is very satisfying to me. Anyway, we have cake, coffee, punch. We'll be around for a while. We want to talk about that. If you want to join today, one time off, $10 and a book. Total 30. All right, thank you.